Part 76. The legitimate daughter of the prosperous medical fragrance will not marry. Author, Jinchi. Chapter 751. Chapter 751. Why should I agree to you? There is no need to make any announcement about this matter for now. Empress Zhen 11 on the bed suddenly spoke, interrupting Ji Hongliao and Fan Qinjiao's thoughts. Ji Hongliao didn't like to ask about the affairs of the harem. Seeing the queen's explanation, he bowed his head and accepted the order, and then took Lily down to make a prescription. Empress Zhen 11 waved to Fan Qinjiao, "Xiao Qinjiao, come here." Fan Qinjiao walked to the bed and said, "Mother. Looking at you coming out of the imperial study, I thought that the matter of coming to Hua's house was no big deal. You are indeed a capable person." Empress Zhen 11 smiled, but she still couldn't hide the look of weakness on her face. "My daughter-in-law asked the children of the Hua family to serve as companions to the new grandson of the Yu family." Fan Qinjiao lowered his head and said. This matter seemed to have solved the current dilemma of the Hua family, but it also involved the queen. She felt that it is necessary to explain to the queen. Queen Zhen 11 was stunned for a moment, obviously a little shocked, but she quickly nodded and said, "Everyone in the world wants to swim against the current, but they never understand the principle of retreating bravely. You have done a good job, but once the emperor agrees to this, have you thought about the consequences again? Since my daughter-in-law has reached this point, she is ready to bear all the consequences." Empress Zhen 11 looked at Fan Qinjiao's firm eyes and said nothing more. Sending the heirs of the Hua family under the eyes of the Yu family is a risky move, but who can guarantee that the person who is sent there will be led by the Yu family forever? Maybe the heir of the Hua family is powerful and has opinions. Who knows what will happen next? Besides, the heir of the Hua family is still young. Even if he is sent to the palace at the earliest, it will take 5 or 6 years. By that time, it is hard to say how the situation will turn out. Empress Zhen 11 is not willing to waste energy on unknown things. Since you are able to enter the palace, I should have thought that you would make this move. That's all, we will talk about the future later." Empress Zhen 11 smiled and took Fan Qinjiao's hand, with a look of love and kindness on her face. Tolerate. Fan Qinjiao didn't want the queen to waste energy on her own affairs at this time, so she said, "If the mother wants to investigate the coma, the daughter-in-law will do her best. As long as poison is administered, it must pass through the hands of others. Although the poison was administered secretly, it doesn't necessarily mean that nothing can be found." Fan Qinjiao has really never been afraid of anyone when it comes to medical skills. Queen Zhen 11 said, "No need, just treat this matter as an accident for now." Fan Qinjiao was stunned, and then Queen Zhen 11 continued, "You and Ji Hongliao also said that this poison will not really harm me. In this case, the purpose of poisoning people is not mine. Life, I am very curious about what that person wants." Fan Qinjiao heard that the queen was planning to take risks. Perhaps, the queen empress already has suspicions in her heart. Of course, Fan Qinjiao would not veto the empress's decision. The empress had experienced the storms and waves in the palace. She must have her own opinions when making such a decision. But if Fan Qinjiao was to let Fan Qinjiao just let it go, she would be really worried. Thinking about it, Fan Qinjiao simply walked to the front of the book desk, studied the ink, and quickly wrote something on the rice paper. Just at this time, Bai He came in and said, "The queen, concubine Lu Shu is still sitting outside. She said she is worried about the queen's health, and she doesn't feel relieved if she is not safe." Queen Zhen 11 nodded, "Then let her come in." At the same time, Fan Qinjiao put down his pen and walked up to Lily with what he had written. "Aunt Lily, could you please find a trustworthy person to send this prescription to my master? After the medicine is captured, please give it to me." Aunt Lily carefully ground it into powder and kept it in a warm place. Lily looked at the densely written rice paper and said, "This is. From now on, when the mother eats all her food, including tea, pour this in front of her mouth. As long as there is something inappropriate in it, it will definitely turn reddish-brown within a quarter of an hour. If there is no reaction, it means nothing is wrong. Remember this. Don't put too much, just a small amount is enough. Many of the medicinal materials here are extremely rare, but I guess they are not difficult for the master. Lily didn't expect such a good thing, so she quickly put it away carefully. Don't worry, Crown Princess, I will personally go to the Imperial Hospital in a moment. Fan Kinjao nodded, thinking that concubine Lushu was still outside, so he left first. Concubine Lushu came in quickly and greeted the queen obediently. I have met the queen. Empress Zhen 11 waved her hand. I'm fine now. Speaking of today's matters, there are more concubine Lushu. Everyone has been in the palace for so long and they are all old. There is no need to beat around the bush. What does concubine Lushu want? You can tell me directly. Concubine Lushu's knees that she had just straightened bent down again. I have no other thoughts, and I did not expect that such a thing would happen. The queen is the master of the harem, and I should do whatever I do for the queen. What you said is interesting. Queen Zhen 11 smiled half-heartedly. Concubine Lushu took a deep breath, as if she didn't hear the queen's teasing. If the queen doesn't dislike her, I am willing to follow you all the time. Queen Zhen 11 was really tired after all this hard work and was too lazy to use her brain. It has been more than 10 years since concubine Lushu entered the palace. Why didn't concubine Lushu take the initiative to come to the palace before? Concubine Lushu gritted her teeth and said, I didn't dare to do this before. Oh, Queen Zhen 11 raised her eyebrows and waited patiently for the next sentence. Back then, when I entered the palace, I only gained the emperor's favor. Concubine Yu was the one who got in the way. After concubine Jiangshu was favored, she deliberately sent the palace title to the Ministry of Internal Affairs, so that concubine Jiangshu could share the concubine's title. Later, after having the second prince, concubine Yu also used ruthless methods. On the day of the third bath, she found someone to push the concubine and let the concubine throw the second prince. The emperor was furious and sent the second prince to concubine Han Xian for foster care. When mentioning the past, concubine Lushu was filled with hatred. She was young at that time, so how could she be able to compete with concubine Yu? Her biological son was raised by concubine Han Xian for 8 years. Later, if she hadn't deliberately set a fire in her palace and used her words to win the emperor's soft heart even though he was about to die, she would probably have had 2 children in this life. The prince will never be sent back to her again. It's a pity that she and the second prince missed 8 years. Even though the second prince knew that she was his biological mother, he still obeyed the words of concubine Han Xian who had raised her. Now, concubine Han Xian is clearly trying to please concubine Yu. If she does nothing more, won't she make the same mistake again? Queen Zhen 11 understood and understood. You didn't look for me before because you thought I couldn't beat concubine Yu. Now you show up because you see hope in me? But why should I promise you. End of this chapter. The legitimate daughter of the prosperous medical fragrance will not marry. Author, Jinchi. Chapter 752. Chapter 752, Stab yourself in the heart. Concubine Lushu knelt on the ground and looked at the queen expectantly. Concubine Han Xian has long been partial to concubine Yu. If this continues, the second prince will definitely be with the third prince. I want to make the second prince look back, but I can't. I have never been able to find a backbone. The meaning of this statement is obvious. As long as the queen nods, maybe the second prince can help the prince. Even if you really can't help much, it's still better than becoming an enemy. I understand concubine Lushu's intention, but I still need to think more about this matter. It's getting late, concubine Lushu should go back early. The light on Queen Zhen 11's face made people unpredictable from beginning to end. Inner thoughts? Concubine Lushu really didn't expect the queen to be so calm. She gritted her teeth and stood up. She was obviously unwilling, but she could only kneel down and leave. Lily, who was waiting at the door, personally escorted concubine Lu Shu out of the house, then returned to the bedchamber. She looked at the queen and said, "Concubine Lu Shu is quite smart. If you weren't smart, you wouldn't be with me today." The queen's empress means. Empress Zhen 11 smiled coldly. When she was safe for 800 years, concubine Lu Shu came to visit her. It happened that something happened to her, and concubine Lu Shu appeared in front of her. This is really trying to fool her into thinking she is a fool. I didn't expect concubine Lu Shu to do such a thing. Lily's face turned dark. Concubine Lu Shu has been in the palace for more than 10 years. If she was really brave, she would not be bullied by concubine Yu all the time. But if she said that she really didn't know about what happened today, I wouldn't believe it. Let's look at it later. Empress Zhen 11 sighed. If she wanted to stay with her, she had to be clean. How many years could she live? It was best not to plant any hidden dangers for Fengming and Xiao Qinjiao in advance. When Lu Shifei left Fenji Palace, she felt that all the strength in her body had been drained away. Fortunately, the nanny beside her helped her in time, so she did not kneel on the ground with her legs weak. "Mother, what did the queen say?" Mammy asked in a low voice. Concubine Lu Shu looked back at Fenji Palace behind her before continuing to walk forward. No wonder concubine Zhang Shu has been with the empress long ago. The empress now is not the soft persimmon she once was, and she is no longer easy to fool. Mammy frowned and said, "What does the empress mean?" Concubine Lu Shu thought for a while and originally said that even if the queen was not good enough, it would be okay for her and concubine Han Xian to go to concubine Yu. But before she could say anything, she saw several palace attendants walking away with pale faces. "Come over." Concubine Lu Shu glanced at the nanny next to her. She understood it and stopped several palace people to ask questions. However, she didn't know until she asked. When she asked, she was shocked to find that the person in front of the emperor was actually dead. "Do you know who caused the accident?" "As I can tell you, it's eunuch Sun who is in front of the emperor." To say that Bai Tu is indeed very agile in doing things, within an hour he found out all the conversations that Sun Defu had with the old general of the Hua family in front of the palace gate today. Later, he also called in the guards at the gate to testify. The witnesses and physical evidence are complete. If this matter involves other people, Bai Tu will just deal with it like this. But since it was the matter of the crown princess, Bai Tu didn't dare to be careless. He was just a little eunuch. Who really had the guts to ridicule a general with great military achievements in public? Bai Tu has been following the emperor for many years, and he has a lot of skills and ruthlessness. After getting the evidence, he directly pressed Sun Defu in front of the emperor, took off his pants, and beat him one after another in front of all the emperor's people. "Go down." How could Sun Defu endure this? He confessed in a short while. He had accepted Grandma Ying's money and wanted to please concubine Yu, so he took the opportunity to ridicule the old generals of the Hua family. As for the old generals of the Hua family who blocked the way outside the palace, the people are all the bad friends he made before entering the palace. Bai Tu saw that the trial was almost over, so he took the confession and gave it to the emperor. Emperor Yongchang didn't expect that there was concubine Yu's handiwork in this, and his face was very gloomy. Concubine Yu had always been his favorite, and she did do some things that were neither light nor heavy, and he didn't care about it, but now this hand is always outstretched. What does it mean to arrive at the imperial court? Arrest all the people who hijacked Hua Yaoding today and leave them to me. No one will be spared. Yes, I obey the order. Bai Tu took the emperor's order and took the guards in the palace to arrest the person with great fanfare. As for Sun Defu, who cares about his life or death? At this time, there was really an explosion in the palace. Didn't you say that the Hua family is no longer good? Doesn't it mean that the emperor is still suspicious of the Hua family? But what's going on now? Concubine Lu Shu's face turned pale with shock when she heard what the palace official said. Everyone knows that the emperor is suspicious of the Hua family. Now that the Hua family has an heir, it has clearly touched the emperor's side. It is absolutely impossible to say that the emperor is merciful and careless. But the emperor really doesn't care. And also helping the Hua family to stand out. The credit for this, no matter how stupid concubine Lu Shu is, she would know that it has something to do with the crown princess. A young girl has such a mind and courage to turn things around. It's no wonder that the originally mediocre prince suddenly rose to prominence. Mommy, let's go. Mother, this is. I remember that there are ginseng and velvet antlers sent by my mother-in-law a few years ago in the warehouse. You will deliver them to the queen in person later. Concubine Lu Shu no longer thinks about concubine Yu at all. She always feels that this concubine is a better person than concubine Yu. The imperial concubine is even more powerful. Compared to concubine Lu Shu's change of mind, concubine Panda, who was still sitting in Yueyu Palace, was shocked. Last night when she heard that the Hua family had an heir, she was the one who accompanied the emperor. Even now, concubine Panda still remembers how ugly the emperor's face was, so she couldn't wait to send the news to concubine Yu today. Can result. The good news turned into a slap in the face. Pandi Fi was in a daze after being hammered. Concubine Yu looked extremely ugly and quickly asked Aunt Ying to go out and investigate. Aunt Ying left quickly and came back faster, but her face was even uglier than that of concubine Yu. My lady, the people in front of the imperial concubine said that Sun Defu had already been recruited, and he even took the money from Yueyu Palace. Said concubine Yu. It is true that people are sitting in the palace and pots are coming from heaven. Concubine Yu also learned last night that the Hua family had an heir. Thinking of the emperor's fear of the Hua family, she quietly called over Sun Defu, who had been bribed. She originally wanted Sun Defu to find an opportunity to anger Hua Yaoding and make Hua Yaoding do some irreversible things impulsively. In this way, the emperor would only be more cruel to the Hua family. Who would have thought of the knife he stabbed? Instead, it stabbed him in the heart. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The legitimate daughter of the prosperous medical fragrance will not marry. Author, Jinchi. Chapter 753. Chapter 753. The carriage is blocked. Aunt Ying was also panicked. Old slave, I also heard that the emperor ordered Bai Tu to take the guards out of the palace to arrest people, and he was bound to arrest everyone who intercepted the old general of the Hua family today. Now Bai Tu has left the palace with the guards. Went. Those people said they were related to Sun Defu, but in fact they were all people raised by the Yu family. Mammy Ying knew that the imperial concubine had been having some disagreements with her natal family over the years, but this year they finally eased up a bit, and as a result, things like this happened. If all those people had their necks wiped clean, the Yu family would definitely put the blame on the imperial concubine. Concubine Yu was also in a mess now. There are a lot of silver notes in the box of my dowry. After a while, you will quietly send someone out of the palace to deliver them to the Yu family. I don't dare to complain anymore after the Yu family took the money. They are just some shady slaves, just raise them with money. Aunt Ying nodded. Old slave, let's do it now. Yunyu looked at Grandma Ying, who hurriedly walked out of the door, feeling very upset in her heart. She has always known that Fan Qinjiao should not be underestimated, but this time Fan Qinjiao has exceeded her expectations. How long have you been in the palace? Not only was he able to save the Hua family from his father, but he was also able to pull out Sun Defu. With this method and courage, it is no wonder that the mother-in-law has been at a disadvantage in recent years. Concubine Panda saw that the atmosphere in Yueyu Palace was not right, so she quickly stood up and left. She originally wanted to get out, but she didn't expect to hear the report from her slave as soon as she went out, and she quickly ran back with a pale face. "Concubine Yu is in trouble." Concubine Yu frowned. "Can't you say something auspicious?" Concubine Panda hesitated for a moment. "I just heard that the emperor has agreed to let the new heir of the Hua family be a companion to the 1-year-old grandson of the Yu family." Concubine Yu. Had it not been for Pan Dfi's serious face, she would have thought she was hallucinating. Yunyu also widened her eyes in shock. Where is anyone sending his own people to the enemy? But that's what Fan Qinjiao did. Yunyu looked at her mother-in-law's face, which was all black. She knew in her heart that her face was probably even darker than her mother-in-law's. The main reason was that Fan Qinjiao was not acting according to common sense at all. Let alone her, she probably even the mother-in-law couldn't figure out what Fan Qinjiao wanted to do. Fan Qinjiao didn't know how wonderful the twisted faces in Yu Palace were. He walked all the way to the entrance of the palace and happened to pass by the imperial palace. Sun Defu, who was pressed on the bench, was obviously suffering from inhalation and exhaustion, and blood was dripping down his lower back. When he saw Fan Qinjiao, Sun Defu's eyes burst with the desire to live. He opened his mouth, as if he wanted to plead for himself, but at this moment, he was in so much pain that he couldn't even utter a word. It was the who was supervising the torture. He looked at the scene and raised his hand to signal to the guard next to him who was holding the tablet. He was obviously waiting for Fan Qinjiao's attitude. Fan Qinjiao's eyes swept across Sun Defu's face. His calm face showed no emotion at all, and he just walked past everyone's side calmly and extremely indifferently. The who supervised the torture had some friendship with Sun Defu. He originally thought that such a cruel scene would make any person feel sympathy, especially women, who would hate to see such a scene. But I never expected, the crown princess walked over so calmly. What else could the supervising the torture say? He could only signal the guards behind him to continue the torture. At this time, Sun Defu could no longer bear it, and his eyelids began to grow heavy. When the supervising the torture saw this, he could only sigh silently and shake his head. He had never dealt with the crown princess, but judging from the crown princess's vigorous and resolute methods today, it was clear that she was someone who could not be offended. The only one to blame was I can only blame this boy Sun Defu for provoking the wrong people. It is estimated that the commotion in front of the emperor was really too loud. When Fan Qinjiao left the palace, even the guards guarding the palace gate treated her with more respect than before. Fan Qinjiao got on the carriage, sat on the soft couch and closed his eyes tiredly. She was really tired after a tiring day, and she fell asleep unconsciously. I don't know how long it took, but the carriage that had been moving slowly suddenly came to a sudden stop. Fan Qinjiao opened his eyes suddenly and heard the commotion outside the carriage. He stretched out his hand to lift the curtain and saw that his carriage was surrounded by a group of people. We heard that the crown princess sent the children of the Hua family to serve as companions to the grandsons of the Yu family. We don't know whether this is true or not, and we hope that the crown princess can give us an explanation. We are all people who have followed the Hua family army, and now we are dead and disabled. The old general of the Hua family once promised us that the spirit of the Hua family army will never be extinguished, but now the descendants of the Hua family are willing to work for others. Ma, we just want to ask where the Hua family's military spirit is. Where is the Hua family's character? Our men all followed the old generals of the Hua family to death on the battlefield. If they know that the Hua family actually did such a thing, how can they close their eyes even if they fall into Jiquan? These people, both male and female, are either the remnants of the Huajia army or the family members of the deceased Huajia army, and there are many of them who once held important positions in the Huajia army. Whether they retired or were kicked out of the military camp due to the disbandment of the Hua family army, the trust in their hearts was never broken. Especially when they heard that the Hua family had an heir, they were even more excited. They are looking forward to someone who can inherit the style of the Hua family. They are looking forward to the Hwajiajan's re-emergence in the military camp. But now, they are extremely disappointed. Because just now, they actually heard that the crown princess took it upon herself to send the children of the Hua family to the Yu family as companions. Who among the people in the main city didn't know that the Yu family was the mother's family of concubine Yu, and the maternal family of the third prince? The concubine sent the person over at this time. It was obvious that she wanted to curry favor with concubine Yu. The boy who was driving the carriage had never seen such a posture before. Cold sweat was streaming down his face. He leaned on the door and whispered, "There are slaves here to help deal with the situation. The young lady should take the opportunity to leave quietly." Fan Kinjao looked at the indignant people outside the car window and sneered in his heart. How could things in the palace have spread so quickly if no one had helped? Moreover, the people who were passed on were all people who had been related to the Hwajiajan. The temptation in this should not be too obvious. As for the person behind everything, Fan Kinjao knew who it was without even thinking about it. The boy who was lying on the car door waited for a long time without waiting for Miss Wei's reply. Just as he was wondering if this person was frightened, he saw the car door in front of him suddenly opened. Seeing Fan Kinjao bend down and step out of the carriage, the young man's eyes widened in shock. What is it if you're not crazy to show up at this time? End of this chapter. The legitimate daughter of the prosperous medical fragrance will not marry. Author, Jinchi. Chapter 754. Chapter 754. Where do you get your face? Fan Kinjao is certainly not crazy. On the other hand, she was still extremely sober. The person in the palace would spread the news so quickly and encourage people who had a relationship with Hwajiajan to come and make trouble. Wasn't it because he wanted to force her to make a gesture? In this case, Fan Kinjao just showed it to him. The people around the carriage became even more excited when they saw Fan Kinjao getting out of the carriage. As a crown princess, she fawns over the third prince. What does the crown princess think? The Hua family are all proud and strong-willed, but I didn't expect that there would be a despicable person like the crown princess who aspires to power. With such a shameless behavior like yours, how can you be worthy of being a Hua family? No wonder the Fan mansion once kicked the crown princess out of the house. I'm afraid that the people in the Fan mansion have clearly seen the crown princess's ugly face. Don't blame us for speaking harshly. People like the crown princess deserve to be treated as a family without a father. Bastard. This is a bit harsh to say. The boy who was driving the carriage was very angry. How could these people say such outrageous things? Everyone in the main city knows that the incident in the Fan mansion used to be the most unforgettable scar in the hearts of their young ladies, but now these people are openly adding salt to the wound. Isn't their behavior despicable? It's just that the people surrounding Fan Kinjao at this moment don't think they are too much. They were all members of the Hwajia army, and the Hwajia army was the supreme glory of Ziliang. It is precisely because of the existence of the Hwajia army that the health of the people of Ziliang can be guaranteed. Even the current holy emperor has to look at them with admiration. Thinking about the turmoil in the Hua family at the beginning, not only were the Hua family soldiers and their family members not implicated in any way, but they were also given special care by the imperial court in these years. It is this kind of connivance that makes them feel confident today. When something happened to the Hua family, I didn't see you saying a word for the Hua family. Now you are blocking the carriage of my lady outside my family with confidence. Where do you have the face? The boy driving the carriage was really angry. Yes, I was arguing with these people at the top of my lungs. We are the heroes of the Hwajia army, even the imperial court respects us. If the original Hwajiajan didn't have us, how could the Hwajiajan be so prosperous? If we had known a long time ago that the Hua family would have such a man who sold his heirs for glory, we would not have followed the Hua family army even to death. Hua Yaoding and Tao Yuxian heard such words when they arrived in a carriage. Others don't know it, but no one knows it better than Hua Yaoding. These people are just people who have been in the Hwajia army for a year and a half and can't stand to quit. Among them, there are many people who are greedy for life and afraid of death on the battlefield. Disturbing the rhythm of the Hwajiajan's battle, he died tragically on the battlefield. It's just that Hwa Yaoding has never argued with these people, and has never exposed their crimes. He even took the initiative to ask the court for credit for these people, just because he didn't want to hurt the hearts of other Hwajiajan people. But I didn't expect that these people would now be brazenly scolding his granddaughter with such ugly faces. Hwa Yaoding felt that the boy driving the carriage was right. Where did they get the face from? Do you want the government to come forward? Tao Yuxian was surprised when she suddenly heard that Fan Kinjao sent the Hua family's heirs to the Yu family as companions, but soon she knew that her little Kinjao was sinking his boat. Just because Tao Yuxian and Hua Yaoding can understand such painstaking efforts does not mean that everyone can understand it. Hua Yaoding suppressed the anger in his heart. These scum of the Hua family army have been silent in the main city for so many years. Why are the good ones suddenly getting together now? Tao Yuxian was shocked. Master is saying, this is the emperor's intention. Hua Yaoding sighed and slowly closed his eyes, which was a silent acquiescence. The emperor was always suspicious, and his methods became increasingly despicable. Now Fan Kinjao directly proposed to let the Hua family heirs serve as companions to the Yu family. Although the emperor could not find any reason to target the Hua family, how could the emperor believe it so easily given his suspicion? But if Xiao Kinjao really recognizes her in front of these people, what will happen to her reputation in the future? The main city is not big or small, and the most fearful thing is that it will be spread by false rumors. Once it is really revealed that Fan Kinjao sells his children for glory, how will she survive in the future? Don't worry, the emperor will never watch helplessly. Hua Yaoding has been dealing with the emperor for decades and knows the emperor very well. Now the emperor is inciting these scum of the Hua family army in order to create pressure on Fan Kinjao. Under the pressure, Fan Kinjao still insists on sending the Hua family heirs to the Yu family. If Fan Kinjao really if he didn't hold on, the emperor would have no time to take advantage of the situation and target the Hua family. And once Fan Kinjao really persists, the emperor will never let it go. After all, Fan Kinjao is the crown prince appointed by the emperor, and she will marry into the royal family in the future. Even for the sake of his own face and the face of the royal family, the emperor has to wash away the bad reputation of Fan Kinjao and let Fan Kinjao married into the royal family innocently. To put it bluntly, this is just a temptation from the emperor. It's just this truth that not everyone can understand in times of crisis. Hua Yaoding didn't know if others could figure it out, but he believed that his little Kinjao would definitely understand. Of course Fan Kinjao understands. In other words, when she saw the people surrounding the carriage, she guessed the emperor's method of testing. Therefore, no matter how those people ridiculed and cursed, Fan Kinjao just looked at the crowd and said, the emperor is kind to the Hua family, and the Hua family will repay him with wooden peaches and Kaian Yao. Only in this way can he be worthy of his great kindness to the dragon. You gave your relatives to the Yu family, which is a treason. What high-sounding excuse can you find now? The Yu family is an important official in the court, and the descendants of the Hua family can be regarded as companions for the descendants of the Yu family, which can be regarded as complementing each other. If the civil and military can really go forward together, Ziliang will definitely reach a higher level. He talks a lot about great principles, but in fact he is just a despicable and vain villain. Today's decision was made by me alone. I only hope that everyone here can give the Hua family a break. The Hua family was once bullied and turbulent, and it can no longer withstand any ups and downs. I hope you will show your support. Fan Kinjao is here. Thank you in advance. As Fan Kinjao spoke, he bent down to those who had been speaking harshly to him. When the driver standing aside saw the situation, he knelt on the ground even though he was still unwilling to do so. Just kidding, the future crown princess is already bent over. How can he not kneel down? End of this chapter. The legitimate daughter of the prosperous medical fragrance will not marry. Author, Jinchi. Chapter 755. Chapter 755. People's hearts are always biased towards the weak. The commotion here has already attracted many people nearby to watch. Now seeing Fan Kinjao's low profile, everyone's eyes widened unexpectedly. Even those who pointed at Fan Kinjao and cursed him just now closed their mouths unconsciously. If Fan Kinjao had scolded them, they might have been able to continue, but now Fan Kinjao was even bent over, and they couldn't even open their mouths even if they wanted to continue scolding him. People's hearts are always biased towards the weak. Looking at this scene, the people watching were reminded of the turmoil that the Hua family had experienced, and then thinking about Fan Kinjao's words just now, the people naturally mixed the two things involved. The Hua family almost collapsed that year. Even General Hua left the main city. Needless to say, the men of the Hua family all died tragically in Huaishang. Their bodies are hard to find. There is only one eldest grandson of the Hua family. Although he is a member of the Hua family, his descendants have long since given up martial arts and engaged in business. Was the Hua family miserable at that time? It's naturally miserable. But the Hua family is in such a miserable state, and they have never seen these people under the banner of the Hua family go to the Hua family for a visit, let alone lend a helping hand. Oh, when the Hua family was in trouble, you all hid and enjoyed the special treatment given to you by the court. Now that the Hua family has sent their heir to the Yu family as a companion, you just jumped out and cursed the world. Yes, to put it bluntly, my grandson is from the Renhua family. Does he have anything to do with you? What's the matter? How do I arrange my grandson? I have to wait for you to force me to do it. The common people did not understand the pros and cons, but they could still understand what the crown princess said. It's good that the Yu family is the ancestral family of the third prince, but who stipulates that after the princess marries the prince, she cannot have contact with other princes? The prince and the third prince are both grandsons of the prince and Phoenix. Shouldn't we unite together for Ziliang? The people naturally hope that Ziliang will get better and better. Besides, the princess also said that the Yu family is civilized and the Hua family is military. The civil and military forces just make up for each other. This is obviously for the sake of Ziliang in the future. You people with disabilities, his disability, his dead husband's dead husband, he doesn't know anything, what are you talking about here? Those who came to make trouble were so cold that the people shed cold sweat when they saw them. They never expected that things would turn out like this. How is this different from what the court told them before? When the two elders of the Hua family sitting in the carriage saw this, they all breathed a sigh of relief. A carriage drove slowly down the street. As the carriage door opened, the beautiful hands in white sleeves stretched out, blooming like an epiphyllum in front of everyone. Lin Yi walked to Fan Kinjao and said respectfully, "Princess, His Royal Highness will take you back to your residence." "Your Majesty, Your Highness the Crown Prince?" Hearing this, the people fell to their knees on the ground wherever they could stand. Even those who came to make trouble had to kneel on the ground and kowtow. Fan Kinjao looked at the beautiful hand that stretched out the car door, and was not surprised. Bailey Fenming's eyes were all over the main city, so it was reasonable for him to get the news and come here. Almost with the people kneeling down, Fan Kinjao held Bailey Fenming's hand and got into the carriage. As the prince's carriage gradually moved away, the people's thoughts were further confirmed. If the prince came to pick up the princess, then he definitely didn't mind. The princess sent the Hua family's heirs to the Yu family as companions. Since even His Highness the Prince did, I accepted it with peace of mind. Why are you guys who have retired from the Huajia army still making such nonsense? Wouldn't it be nice to leave early and go home and lie down to have a rest? A person who comes to make trouble. Even if you don't want to leave anymore, you have to leave. On the carriage, Fan Qinjiao looked at Bailey Fengming, who was sitting opposite, and said softly, "Did the emperor ask you to come?" Bailey Fengming nodded. "After I returned to the palace, I was summoned by my father. I heard that you were surrounded by people in the main city, so my father asked me to come over and help you relieve the siege." Fan Qinjiao felt a cold feeling in his heart of disgust. Maybe the emperor had to give up because he felt nothing had been tested. Now that Bailey Fengming has been sent here, he clearly wants to make her cry with gratitude. Father's test is a good thing. At least the Hua family is safe this time. When I left the palace, I heard that my father had sent people to the Yu family. I guess they were going to pass on oral instructions for the descendants of the Hua family to serve as companions to the grandsons of the Yu family. Bailey Fengming was indifferent. After all, he had seen even more despicable methods than he did now. Fan Qinjiao didn't want to hear the word emperor anymore, for fear of spitting it out, so he changed the subject and said, "Are you going to see your mother?" Bailey Fengming nodded and said, "The queen's complexion has improved a lot." Fan Qinjiao nodded, relieved when he heard that the queen's complexion improved. It is medicine that contains 3 parts poison. Although the medicine taken by the empress was not intended to kill the empress, it would always affect the health of the body. "I'm afraid I have to leave the main city for a while." Bailey Fengming looked at Fan Qinjiao and said with a smile, as if what he was telling was just a joke. Fan Qinjiao knew that Bailey Fengming would never joke about separation. "Has the emperor decided to send you to Fengcheng and Nanjing?" Bailey Fengming knew that she would be able to guess it, so he nodded and said, "Although my father has not said it clearly, if he asked me to meet the 2 Zhongping today, he would not send me to investigate." Hearing these words, Fan Qinjiao didn't know whether he should be happy or worried. The 2 Zhongpings had previously requested to see His Highness the Crown Prince to no avail. It was impossible not to have any resentment in their hearts. After all, the lives of so many people in the 2 cities were hanging on the edge of a knife. Now that the emperor is determined to send Bailey Fengming to investigate, he probably has finally let go of the suspicion in his heart. However, the 2 Zhongpings have deep resentment against Bailey Fengming. It is reasonable for Bailey Fengming to go there at this time and find out. If it cannot be found out, it is waste. To put it bluntly, it is simply thankless. The more Fan Qinjiao thought about it, the more disgusting he felt. The emperor's neglect of government affairs some time ago had aroused complaints from the people. Now he didn't want anyone to overshadow him, so he did it when he knew that the 2 Zhongping were against Bailey. When Fengming felt resentful, he sent Bailey Fengming to the 2 cities to investigate. In this way, even if Bailey Fengming solves the case quickly, I am afraid it will be difficult to win the hearts of the people. Since Bailey Fengming cannot win the support of the people, the emperor will naturally benefit in the end. The people and even the 2 charters will feel that the prince has done nothing. The emperor is concerned about the well-being of the people in the 2 cities, so he appointed the prince. I heard that someone secretly sent someone to Pengcheng, which is under the jurisdiction of Bincheng. Do you know who it is? Fan Qinjiao's heart skipped a beat. All branches of the Hua family were in Pengcheng. Bailey Fengming smiled faintly again. Brother 3 Emperors. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The legitimate daughter of the prosperous medical fragrance will not marry. Author, Jinchi. Chapter 756. Chapter 756, The Cheeky Branch. Fan Qinjiao keeps the Hua family stable, seemingly by sending the Hua family's heirs to the Yu family to please him, but in fact, he is indeed suspected of stepping on the Yu family to save the Hua family. With Bailey Rong's character, it must be impossible to swallow it. This is a loss. It's just that Fan Qinjiao didn't expect Bailey Rongs to take action so quickly and had already sent people to Pengcheng. The branches of the Hua family are all in Pengcheng. What else could be the purpose of sending people there at this time? Naturally, he wanted people from the Hua family branch to come to the main city to stir up trouble. Fan Qinjiao was right. On the third day after parting ways with Bailey Fengming, the Hua family branch arrived in the main city. This time several gentlemen from the Hua family came, but they did not come directly to the Hua family. Instead, they stayed in a restaurant in the main city. Soon, everyone in the main city knew that the Hua family had been completely severed from the Hua family branch. Of course, the bosses of the Hua family will never take the initiative to tell the stupid things they have done. They will very easily accuse the Hua family of being indifferent to the branch, and even cry with snot and tears. Not only have I not received any light from the Hua family in these years, I was also kicked out by the Hua family when they were in glory. For a time, rumors spread in the main city. Hua Yaoding certainly disdains these so-called rumors and should still go to court. Just standing in the court hall, the gazes of the courtiers staring at his spine still made Hua Yaoding's face darken. The third prince and his party even took the opportunity to say, "Your Majesty, there has been a lot of gossip in the main city recently. Although this is a family matter of the Hua family, it is not good for General Hua to ignore it for so long." Another person said, "Since General Hua is upright and is not afraid of the shadow, it is better to find evidence to refute it. Otherwise, when this matter gets worse, even the imperial court will be smeared along with General Hua." Prince Heshuo couldn't listen anymore. What Mr. Sun said really made people laugh. Isn't it possible that the imperial court is afraid of a bunch of people messing around? What Prince Heshuo said is wrong. There is so much commotion in the main city now. I heard that the descendants of the Hua family are going to be sent to the Yu family as companions. If this matter never calms down, I am afraid that there is no explanation for the Yu family. Yu Guanghui, who was standing at the front, showed no reaction even if his name was called. In recent years, concubine Yu relied on her popularity in the harem and never took the Yu family seriously. Later, she found the Yu family to ease the relationship, which was also because the prince was gradually rising. Although it is a father-daughter relationship, the interests mixed in it have long diluted the family affection. Just a few days ago, the Yu family lost more than 40 lives because they followed concubine Yu to eat melons. They were all people the Yu family had spent many years raising. How could concubine Yu just give her a little money? Flat. Yu Guanghui knew very well that the third prince and his party wanted to drag him out to join the war, but now the emperor was becoming more and more suspicious, and he did not want to arouse the emperor's suspicion just to get a small profit from the Hua family. Seeing that Yu Guanghui didn't speak, Zhou Chun secretly breathed a sigh of relief. If Master Yu spoke at this time, he would be unable to speak even if he wanted to help the Hua family. Wei Chen feels that this matter is not that serious. As early as General Hua split up with his branch a few years ago, and now the Hua family branch is obviously making trouble. If the imperial court steps in to calm it down, the rumors will soon dissipate. Fan Zixiu, who was standing at the end of the team, saw that Zhou Chun, who had been with him before, was now helping Hua Yaoding to speak, and his face turned dark with anger. However, his position was too low now and he had no right to speak. There were endless arguments in the court about the affairs of the Hua family, but Emperor Yongchang did not express his position for a long time. No one dared to test the emperor's will again and again, and in the end they had no choice but to retreat. Hua Yaoding knew in his heart that the emperor's refusal to express his position was not because he was favoring the Hua family, but because he had just found someone to make trouble with the Hua family, and it was hard to open his mouth to make up for it now. However, the emperor's suspicion of the Hua family was still there, and the same was true. It is impossible for the court to stand up for the Hua family. In the Zijiao mansion, everyone's expressions were not very good. The Huajia branch was causing such trouble. Although most of the people watched the excitement, there were also people who helped the Huajia branch to speak indiscriminately. especially the group of people who blocked the trouble in front of Fan Kinjao's carriage that day and talked to the Huajia branch all day long. The family is divided into groups, and now the Hua family has to be secretive even when they go out, for fear of causing something irreversible. For this reason, the Wu family had to come to visit. You really agreed to let your children be the companions of the Yu family. Mrs. Wu had heard that those who were the companions had to live under the oppression of their masters since childhood. Wu Qiuzhao looked at his mother and said, "The crown princess has decided on this matter, so my mother should stop talking about it. Even if it is the intention of the crown princess, this is too much." Mrs. Wu only thought that her daughter was afraid of the crown princess's identity. She had also seen the crown princess's methods before, and she even wanted to do it when she saw her. She was frightened, let alone her own daughter. Wu Qiuzhou said, "Mother, this is what I begged the crown princess to do." The Wu family's wives were all shocked. Wu Qiuzhou didn't want his mother to misunderstand the crown princess, so he told the story of the Hua family's demotion, and also expressed the emperor's suspicion. "When I was able to marry into the Hua family, it was all because of the crown princess's help. So, I can't ignore emotions and reasons." "Are you saying that this incident has something to do with the emperor?" Madame Wu's expression changed, but that person was too high and mighty, so she didn't dare to say it. Wu Qiuzhao saw something was wrong with his mother's expression. What does mother know? Mrs. Wu. She didn't even know where to start. "Your aunt's family came to visit a few days ago, and what your uncle said is completely different from what you said." Mrs. Wu's face gradually turned ugly. Although the son-in-law of the Wu family was not a high-ranking official, he still had a fifth-grade official title. What did this person say at that time? Not only did he not say a word to the Hua family during the whole process, but he also accused the Hua family of being unkind and unjust, and sent Wu Qiuzhou's children to the Yu family in order to help the Hua family gain wealth. At that time, the two elders of the Wu family felt sorry for their daughter and grandson, so they gradually led them astray. Thinking about it now, Madame Wu's wife was so frightened that she broke into a cold sweat. The emperor is afraid of the Hua family. Ordinary people naturally don't know about this kind of thing, but how can people who are officials in the court not know about it? Even a woman like Wu Qiuzhou, who lives in the backyard, knows that elbows should not be turned outwards. How could a person who was living in official circles with a salary from the imperial court not understand this truth? But look at the son-in-law of the Wu family. He keeps making the Wu family hate the Hua family. It was because of this son-in-law's instigation that Mrs. Wu was worried and came to visit her today. End of this chapter. The legitimate daughter of the prosperous medical fragrance will not marry. Author, Jinchi. Chapter 757. Chapter 757, Everyone wants to bite the Hua family. Wu Qiuzhao didn't expect that there was such a secret, and his heart was beating wildly. What did father say? Your father has no idea, so he asked me to come and ask you. Mrs. Wu's voice became lower and lower as she spoke. In the end, she lost her confidence. She lived most of her life in vain and almost fell into the hands of others. Gun. That being the case, mother has nothing to worry about. She said a lot of nonsense about treating her as an uncle. If my uncle comes to visit again, mother will just ask her father to find a reason to disappear. Wu Qiuzhou has never experienced this. I don't know what to do about such a thing. I thought it would be less troublesome if we saw each other less often. Mrs. Wu nodded. Don't worry, your father and I will never hold you back. Wu Qiuzhou looked at his mother and nodded. Neither of them looked very good, and no one expected that something like this would happen. Mrs. Wu sat for a while, then stood up and left. Unexpectedly, she saw Fan Kinjao standing in the yard as soon as she went out. My wife, I have met the crown princess. Mrs. Wu was so frightened that she originally wanted to kneel down to say hello, but unexpectedly her legs trembled and she almost fell to the ground. Fan Kinjao stretched out his hand to support the person. Mrs. Wu, there is no need to be polite. Mrs. Wu stood up, but she couldn't lift her head. She didn't know how long the crown princess had been here and how much she had listened to what she just said. Fan Kinjao couldn't see Mrs. Wu's panic, so she turned to look at Ningguan and said, "Go see Mrs. Wu off." Mrs. Wu was shocked and thought she was hallucinating. Fan Kinjao has not yet been married, but I heard that the emperor asked her to change her story. In the hearts of the people, this was already a legitimate crown princess. Now the personal maid next to the crown princess sent her off in person, and the proud Mrs. Wu almost couldn't accept it. So not only did the crown princess not blame her, but she was also trying to save her face. Under such a comparison, Mrs. Wu really felt ashamed. Look at the princess's magnanimity and way of doing things, and then think about her own little belly. Mrs. Wu can't think about it anymore. If she thinks about it anymore, she might lose the confidence to live. Mrs. Wu, let's go. Ningguan thought about her natal mother, who was actually the eldest grandmother, and her words were still very polite. Mrs. Wu nodded and hurriedly followed Ningguan out of the yard. Fan Kinjao held up her skirt and entered the door under the maid's curtain. In the house, Wu Qiuzao had already heard the sounds in the yard. When he saw Fan Kinjao entering the door, he was thinking about how to explain what just happened when he saw Fan Kinjao speaking first. "Don't worry, sister-in-law, even if someone is killed it will take 5 years before he is sent to study. I will arrange everything in advance so that our family will not suffer." Wu Qiuzao didn't expect that Fan Kinjao didn't come in to ask questions. He was stunned for a long time before saying, "What happened just now?" Fan Kinjao smiled and said, "Sister-in-law, you don't need to worry about what happened just now." Everyone pushed against the wall. Now the Hua family is on the cusp of the storm. There are too many people who want to overthrow the Hua family. But my sister-in-law is still in confinement. Don't be too nervous. Wu Qiuzao nodded, "Okay." Fan Kinjao sat by the bed, carefully checked Wu Qiuzao's pulse, and called the maid in the door. After giving careful instructions on what to pay attention to, he stood up and left. Wu Qiuzao looked at Fan Kinjao's leaving figure with mixed feelings in his heart. She knew that Fan Kinjao had worked hard to do this, so when her mother misunderstood, she would also be angry. If it had been anyone else, she would have cried in grievance, but looking at Fan Kinjao, she was actually much worse than she still needs to be calm. Wu Qiuzao had heard his father say in the past that children who endure more hardships become stronger. He really didn't know how much hardship Fan Kinjao endured to become the calm person he is today. Fan Kinjao doesn't feel that he is very distressed now. These are debts she owed and should be repaid. However, Fan Kinjao really underestimated Bailey Rong's methods. In order to make the Hua family miserable, he actually sent people to the Wu family, and even did such despicable ways to sow discord. I'm afraid that Fan Swinning's contribution should also be attributed to this. Otherwise, a self-proclaimed and arrogant person like Bailey Rongs would never be able to think of starting from the inner house. That being the case, then let's fight. Fan Kinjao calmed down and returned to the yard. Just when he wanted to call Ningtian and Lanja over, he saw a dark mess entering the door, and spat a letter full of saliva on Fan Kinjao's hand. When Fan Kinjao opened it and took a look, his heart was shaken. Now there is news in Nanjing and Fengcheng that the prince is about to go for review. In order to cause trouble, Bailey Fengming has not shown up in the East Palace, as if he is ready at any time. It is precisely because of this that Fan Kinjao never disturbed Bailey Fengming. Unexpectedly, Bailey Fengming, who was in the East Palace and ignored the world, was not idle. Fan Kinjao looked at the things in his hands and quickly called Ningtian and Lanja to come in. You two must remember to spread the news in this letter, and then choose a quiet time to send these things to the Yamen. Lanja and Ningtian nodded, took their things and left silently. In the afternoon of that day, news came out from the main city that the Hua family branch was relying on the Hua family to oppress the people in Pengcheng. Several Hua family masters were still thinking about how to continue to expand the momentum, but unexpectedly they were overwhelmed by the rumors in the main city and couldn't recover. Pengcheng is not too far from the main city, but it is not easy for news from Pengcheng to reach the main city. Now that such a gust of wind has blown into the main city, how can the Hua family masters not panic? This is clearly someone who did it on purpose. The fourth old man of the Hua family was the one who couldn't sit still at first. Now that the news about Pengcheng in the main city is serious, we might as well leave overnight. If we wait until things get serious, it will be too late to escape. But the third old man of the Hua family said, if we leave now, what about the other things? Before we came, the eldest brother collected hundreds of taels of banknotes from others. If we leave without getting anything done, wouldn't our efforts be in vain? How long have you still cared about money, money, money? We don't care about money, what can we eat and drink? In a private room in the restaurant, the third master and the fourth master of the Hua family were having a heated argument. The eldest son of the Hua family yelled angrily, finally making Yajian calm down, I didn't expect that the Hua family would be in a stalemate with us for so many days just to spread such news. Fortunately, there is no evidence, and the people in the main city are not fools. The third old man of the Hua family was startled, what do you mean, eldest brother, that it was all the second brother who instigated this matter? The eldest man of the Hua family smiled coldly, who else could it be besides that cruel second son? End of this chapter. The legitimate daughter of the prosperous medical fragrance will not marry. Author, Jinchi. Chapter 758. Chapter 758, It's time to check, it's time to do something. Hearing this, the third old man of the Hua family almost lost his temper, second brother is really cold-blooded. Not only did he kick us out early, but later he even let Fan Kinjao, whose surname is not included, beat us again and again in Pengcheng. It's pressure. Now we have just arrived in the main city and they are trying to drive us away. The fourth old man of the Hua family did not say anything this time, and he was also sulking in his heart. They brothers were supposed to work together, but their fate was bad and they were not as promising as the second brother. At that time, they just wanted to get some glory, and the second brother was not even willing to do this. The eldest grandpa of the Hua family snorted coldly, since the second brother doesn't care about family ties, don't blame us for being unkind. Let's go to the yamen tomorrow to make a fuss. Brother, if we go to the yamen, won't we be unhappy? If you ask me, we can just make a fuss in the main city. The fourth master of the Hua family obviously felt guilty. After all, many of the things they said were unfounded, especially among them. There are some slanderous elements. What are you afraid of? Didn't you hear what the person who found us said? Now is the time when the emperor doesn't like the Hua family. The more trouble we make, the colder the emperor's attitude towards the Hua family will be. Besides, we are just going, it's not like you really want to complain. When the eldest wife of the Hua family was in Pengcheng, he was severely punished by Fan Kinjao. Fan Kinjao pressed his old face and rubbed it on the ground several times. This time he finally caught an opportunity to make money and take revenge. The eldest wife of the Hua family can't wait to go to the yamen now. When the third wife of the Hua family mentioned Fan Kinjao, he was filled with hatred. Brother is right, we will do this tomorrow. We are all from the Hua family anyway, and no one from the yamen dares to ask us anything. The fourth master nodded. It would be best if Fan Kinjao, the mourner, could learn some lessons. After the elders settled the matter, they went back to sleep. They were waiting to go to the yamen door early tomorrow morning to beat drums and cause trouble. However, they did not expect that at dawn the next day, before they could set off, the people from Chengfengtian mansion found them directly. The elders of the Hua family were all confused. What do you want to do? We are a flower family. Could it be that you have also been bribed by the flower families in the main city, and you actually want to slander us? If you want to take us away, please provide evidence, otherwise we will never end with you. Fengtian Prefecture Yin, who was the leader to arrest people, had not spoken yet, but Tumo Xingzi was sprayed in the face one after another. Wiping the saliva on his face, Feng Tianfuian's expression also turned cold. Feng Tianfuian will never wrong any good person when doing things. Yesterday we received a complaint from someone and handed over some evidence. If you don't, it's embarrassing, so of course I'm willing to let you go. As soon as Fengtian Prefecture Yin waved, the officials behind him took a step forward and spread out the things in their hands. What was clearly displayed in front of everyone's eyes was evidence of all the evil things the Hua family had done in Pengcheng. Some papers, the time and place were clearly marked, and they could do anything from petty theft to serious crimes such as forcing girls into prostitution. The old ladies of the Hua family are no longer confused. Several old ladies in the Hua family started to feel nervous. There are so many bad things that the Hua family has done in Pengcheng over the years. If they were asked to recall them one by one, even they themselves might not be able to recall them. However, there are a few major things on the paper that they can still recall a little bit. Get up. It is precisely because of this that the elders of the Hua family have to be afraid. These are the papers that the people of Pengcheng handed to Pengcheng back then. Later, they spent money to find connections and suppressed all these matters. Pengcheng is small, so many things can be solved as long as you are willing to spend money. It is precisely because of this that the things on these papers cannot withstand scrutiny. What the old men of the Hua family cannot figure out the most is how these things got into the hands of Fengtian Mansion. Feng Tianfuyan didn't say anything when he saw the people in front of him. He just waved his hand and started arresting people. This time, the elders of the Hua family were frightened. They hurriedly asked for mercy, but Fengtian Prefecture Yin was not used to them. Oh, now that he has softened, what was he thinking when he just sprayed spit in his face? Soon, several old ladies from the Hua family were taken away. The Hua family has been in the spotlight recently, and Fengtian Prefecture Yin did not dare to neglect the matter. After several days and nights of review, he finally figured out the ins and outs of the matter. In addition, several old men of the Hua family were greedy for life and afraid of death. They did not wait for the Fengtian Mansion to use torture. Said it over and over again. Fengtian Prefecture did not expect that the matter would involve so many things. Someone clearly wanted to take the opportunity to slander the Hua family. However, Fengtian Prefecture Yin did not dare to take such a big responsibility and quickly wrote the whole story into the memorial. Of course, Emperor Yongchang knew that the Hua family was not peaceful recently, but he also looked on with a cold eye and wanted to see what the Hua family was hiding. But now, looking at the memorial from Fengtian Prefecture, it is obvious that someone saw his suspicion of the Hua family, so they wanted to take advantage of the situation and use his hand to get rid of the Hua family. Once people involve their own interests, everything will naturally be different. Emperor Yongchang never expected that even he would be tricked this time, and his hand holding the memorial had blue veins. Bai Tu on the side looked at the emperor's face and wished he had fainted on the spot. Bai Tu. The slave is here. Publish my instructions and let Fengtian Mansion do everything in accordance with the regulations. If you dare to slander the imperial officials, I think they have really had enough. Bai Tu saw the emperor gnashing his teeth even when he spoke. He didn't dare to delay, so he sent the emperor's message to Fengtian Mansion that night. Of course, Fengtian Mansion does not dare to disobey the holy will. It should be investigated and dealt with. As for the elders of the Hua family, this time I really can't leave the main city. Soon, the matter spread in the main city. The common people were filled with anger when they heard about this. They did not expect that the Hua family branch would be so shameless. They would just not help if something happened to their own family, and they would shamelessly take other people's money to try to slander. This is not something that humans can do. It's just that several old men of the Hua family have been imprisoned now. The people, squeezing and filled with anger and having nowhere to vent, thought of those who blocked the princess's carriage before. Then, the common people volunteered and started a series of revenge plans. They smashed doors and windows and threw rotten eggs and rotten vegetable leaves into the yard, which frightened those who were only in the carriage of the princess. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The legitimate daughter of the prosperous medical fragrance will not marry. Author, Jinchi. Chapter 759. Chapter 759. Another lava. In the anger of the people, not to mention those who wanted to harm the crown princess and the Hua family, even the heirs of the Hua family were sent to the Yu family as companions, which became understandable matter. Even in the eyes of the common people, the heirs of the Hua family sent to the Yu family were promoted to contribute to and consider the future unity of the imperial court. Faced with such changes in the situation, even Bailey Rongs was a little panicked. Originally, he wanted to take the opportunity to make his father more suspicious of the Hua family, but unexpectedly, it has now pushed the reputation of the Hua family to a new level. Bailey Rongs thought about the manpower and material resources he had put in, and finally turned them into the stepping stone to pave the way for the Hua family is to be able to vomit out a mouthful of old blood. Concubine Yu had a dark face all day long because of this. However, the New Year's Eve was coming soon, and there were a lot of trivial matters in the palace. Concubine Yu had no choice but to go to Fenji Palace every day to discuss various New Year's Eve matters with Queen Zhengzi. Of course, Queen Zhen 11 is not the kind of person who adds insult to injury. Faced with Concubine Yu's extremely dark face, even if she wanted to laugh, she would smile secretly in her heart. She still had a business-like attitude on her face. The more Empress Zhen 11 acted like this, the angrier Concubine Yu became, but she couldn't find any reason to vent her anger. She could only stand up and leave with a face as dark as the bottom of a pot after Empress Zhen 11 arranged the matters. Queen Zhen 11 looked at Concubine Yu's glowing black appearance and said to Lily, "Concubine Yu has always been the best in the palace these years. I didn't expect that I would see Concubine Yu like this in my lifetime. Think about it. It's really satisfying." Lily smiled and said, "The crown princess is smart, and the queen is blessed." Empress Zhen 11 smiled and nodded, "Xiao Qinjiao is a good person. I feel relieved to have her accompany Feng Ming. This day, the better it gets, the more enjoyable it will be." "What's going on with Concubine Lu Shu recently?" Queen Zhen 11 asked. Lily lowered her voice and replied, "Recently, during the New Year period, Concubine Lu Shu often reports that the second prince's concubine is entering the palace, but Concubine Han Xian doesn't keep quiet either. Every time the second prince's concubine enters the palace, she will call people over. With too many sons and daughters, there will naturally be more things happening. It is obvious that Concubine Lu Shu wants to break up with Concubine Han Xian. In this case, we can just watch. If Concubine Lu Shu comes to me again during this period, help me block it. Let's go back. The people's hearts in this palace are the most unpredictable. Concubine Lu Shu has been suppressed by Concubine Han Xian for so many years. She will never resist if she says she wants to. If Concubine Lu Shu really wants to surrender wholeheartedly, Queen Zhen 11 will not push her out, but if Concubine Lu really wants to surrender, she will not push her out. If she has any thoughts that she shouldn't have, Queen Zhen 11 won't tolerate them. Now that Feng Ming and Xiao Qinjiao are gradually getting better, she, as a mother, cannot hold back her child. As the new year approaches, things in the Hua family have finally calmed down for the time being. Even the Yu family was afraid of becoming the target of public criticism. The old lady of the Yu family came to the Hua family with great fanfare and brought gifts, as if it was an honor for the Yu family to have an heir of the Hua family as her companion. The old lady of the Yu family, whom Tao Yuxian personally received, tacitly accepted the gift from the Yu family, and also returned the gift to the old lady of the Yu family in a similar amount. No matter how the fight continues in the future, at least we still have to get along with each other on the surface. They are both tailless foxes, so they can easily catch them when playing liaisai. On the day of Laba, the Hua family had a difficult reunion dinner. At the dinner table, several daughters-in-law were chatting and laughing, making the whole flower hall burst into laughter. Wu Kaiozhuo was well nourished during the confinement period. Not only did he not lose weight after confinement, but he gained some weight. He sat holding his son and listened to the elders chatting, and occasionally added a few words. The atmosphere was not too overwhelming. Rapport. On the other hand, the little thing in my arms couldn't understand anything. It looked incredulous when seeing the adults laughing. From time to time, it would raise its small fists, which were no bigger than cakes, in silent protest. This scene really amused everyone. Wu Kaiozhuo happened to take the opportunity to suggest, "Brother, don't you have a nickname yet? Please ask your grandfather and grandmother to give you a name." In Ziliang, boys from wealthy families are generally not given names when they are young. They are given nicknames directly, so as not to be discovered by God and bring bad luck. To put it bluntly, it is easy to support them. Tao Yuxian looked at his great-grandson with a look of indebtedness in his eyes. He was busy here and there some time ago, and in a blink of an eye, the child was already 1 month old. He didn't even have a nickname. After all, they were the elders. Negligence. Hua Yaoding's always been that the child should not be too delicate to support, so he thought about it and said, "Let's call him Brother Ren." The Art of War's beginning plan has something to say, ask for it, Zhiren, Fan Mo. Zhiren, general, wisdom, trust, benevolence, courage, and strictness. Tao Yuxian. How could this old guy name his child in the Art of War? But before Tao Yuxian could open his mouth to refute, Brother Ren seemed to like the name very much, waving his fists and giggling. Tao Yuxian had no choice but to agree helplessly. After everyone had finished their meal, everyone got up and left. The two elders of the Hua family left Fan Qinjiao behind. Thinking about what happened a few days ago, Hua Yaoding couldn't help but angrily said, "It's just nonsense." The scene where Fan Qinjiao was surrounded by a carriage that day is still vivid in his mind. If Fan Qinjiao hadn't been eloquent and responded promptly, no one knows what the consequences would have been. Even thinking about it now, Hua Yaoding can't help but frown. Wrinkle. Fan Qinjiao quickly knelt on the ground. "What my grandfather taught me is that my grandson has realized her mistake." "Are you really aware of your mistake?" "I know I was wrong, but if I had to do it again, my grandson would do it again." Hua Yaoding. If this was a kid, he would have to fight to death himself. After resurrecting her life, Fan Qinjiao was unwilling to deceive her grandfather and grandmother anymore. Sending Brother Ren to the Yu family was the only way to save the Hua family. She had no way of considering the consequences at the time, but since she did so, she couldn't talk about any regrets. She said that in this life, she wants everyone to be well. Hua Yaoding looked at Fan Qinjiao's stubborn look, and it wasn't that he didn't feel hurt. It was precisely because of his heartache that he didn't want her to risk her life. But this child was just too stubborn. He really followed the Hua family's temper and made up his mind. The idea is that even 10 cows cannot be pulled back. The past is over. Why bring it up again? It's the branches of the Hua family. How did you get that evidence? Tao Yuxian motioned to Fan Qinjiao to stand up and kneel on the ground in the cold weather. If he was frozen, he would someone to talk to for reason. The old men from the Huajia branch were investigated and dealt with by Fengtian Prefecture half a month ago. 3 people were thrown into prison for 5, 7, or 8 years. This time, they really lost their wives and lost their troops. Although Fan Kinjao never mentioned this matter, Tao Yuxian knew that it must be Xiao Kinjao's handiwork, otherwise it would be such a coincidence that the people from the Hua family branch had just come to make trouble, and the evidence of the crime appeared in Fengtian mansion. Fan Kinjao shook his head, "It's the prince." Tao Yuxian and Hua Yaoding looked at each other, both of them indescribably surprised. However, after being surprised, it would be a lie for the two of them to say that they were not happy. In today's troubled times, the higher a person stands, the less likely they are to have feelings. Now that the prince is taking action for the Hua family, it shows that he still cares about Xiao Qinjiao. When Prince Heshuo entered the door, he saw 3 people with 6 eyes in the flower hall, looking at each other speechlessly. Heshuo County Prince. It has to be the right time. How about if he goes out again and comes in again? Thinking like this, Prince Heshuo really turned around. Hua Yaoding opened her mouth to stop the people. "You've already come in, why are you leaving?" Prince Heshuo was in a hurry, so he didn't need to inform anyone. He was still a little embarrassed now. "The prince is out of the city today. I heard that he was going to Fengcheng first and then Nanjing, so I thought of coming over and saying something." Fan Kinjao was stunned. "When did it happen?" Prince Heshuo said, "A quarter of an hour ago. We were probably leaving the city soon." Before Prince Heshuo finished speaking, Fan Kinjao ran out of the door holding up his skirt. End of this chapter. The legitimate daughter of the prosperous medical fragrance will not marry. Author, Jinchi. Chapter 760. Chapter 760 Silent Farewell. Fan Kinjao chased all the way towards the city gate, raised the car curtain, and saw thin snowflakes floating in the sky. The heavy snow gradually blurred people's vision, gradually coating everything in front of them with a layer of silvery white. I don't know how long I chased, but I finally heard the sound of horse hooves in front of me. Ning Tian, the driver, said, "Miss, do you want me to stop the carriage in front?" Fan Kinjao said, "No need." During this period of time, she had a very close relationship with Bailey Fengming. Even if it was really a show of affection, as time went by, the emperor would inevitably become suspicious based on his temperament. Otherwise, he would send Bailey Fengming to the 2 cities this time. Oral instructions will not be delivered urgently and suddenly. Given the city of Bailey Fengming, she probably already knew that such an oral instruction was mixed with the emperor's temptation, so she didn't notify her at all and just took the people on the carriage to Fengcheng. She and he have reached this point hand in hand, and no matter how much reluctance she feels in her heart, she feels that she cannot reveal any clues, otherwise everything before will be in vain. "Just keep your distance and follow the team in front," Fan Kinjao ordered. Ning Tian didn't dare to disobey, so he took the horse rope in his hand and followed carefully. Bailey Fengming, who was sitting in the carriage, was looking at the scroll in his hand, when he heard a faint sound of horse hoof beats behind him, and the hand holding the scroll suddenly tightened. A moment later, Xiaoxian, who was driving the carriage, also heard the sound of horse hooves. He leaned against the carriage door and said in a low voice, "Your Highness, may I need you to slow down. At this time, you can tell who is chasing behind you even without looking." After a while, the voice of Bailey Fengming sounded from the carriage, "No need, just keep going." Regarding the criminal evidence of the Hua family branch, although my father did not capture any evidence, he still suspected him. Otherwise, he would not have so suddenly assigned him to go to the 2 cities to investigate. It was obviously that he wanted to take advantage of him when he was not prepared. What's wrong with him? Bailey Fengming knew very well that as long as there was no evidence, his father's suspicion would always be just a suspicion. As long as he was more careful, his father's suspicion would always be eliminated. He didn't notify Fan Kinjao because he didn't want her to see the parting scene, but he didn't expect that she would come anyway. The carriage was so quiet that you could hear a pin drop. Bailey Fengming was sitting on the soft couch, her slender fingers always holding the book, but her phoenix eyes had already lost their focus. I don't know how long it took for the sound of horse hooves that had been following behind to disappear. Bailey Fengming's fingers holding the scroll tightened to the limit, but they soon returned to their natural state. Xiaoxian and Lin Yi, who also couldn't hear the sound of horse hooves, looked at each other silently. Although they didn't speak, they had a rare tacit understanding. Xiaoxian pursed his lips. Did you see that you don't want to find a wife for the time being? Otherwise, you will have to suffer the pain of parting. Lin Yi raised his eyebrows disdainfully. Wait until you can find a wife first. Xiaoxian. I really want to kick you down. Not far from the end of the team, Ningtian had already tightened the horse rope in his hand as instructed by the young lady. Fan Qinjiao just raised the car curtain and stared straight ahead. The biting cold wind roared in, making people breathless, until the fingers were so stiff that they lost all feeling. She said, "Go back." Ningtian turned the horse's head and drove towards the city gate. Sitting on the carriage, Fan Qinjiao gradually warmed up under the baking of the charcoal basin. She knew that Bailey Fengming would be able to hear the sound of horse hooves behind him, and she also knew that Bailey Fengming would not need to guess that she would be the one following behind. But Fan Qinjiao knew better that Bailey Fengming would never stop the carriage. Having been together for so long, Bailey Fengming did love her very much, and even doted on her, but when it came to important matters, Bailey Fengming would never be restrained by the love between his children. This means putting the overall situation first. Although Fan Qinjiao can also be sad, he is more appreciative. In this life, she will indeed stop Bailey Wrongs from sitting on that chair at all costs, but she is not willing to put the people of Ziliang into danger for her own selfish reasons. So, Fan Qinjiao should actually be lucky. Happily, Bailey Fengming like this will definitely be a wise and benevolent king in the future. The news that Bailey Fengming went to the two cities did not spread throughout the main city until the next day. When the people heard the news, they all turned their attention to the mansion in the western suburbs. Calling carefully, the crown princess should be getting her hair cut this year. Although the wedding was postponed due to the disaster in Subay, the disaster in Subay has been controlled now, and the 6 rites of the Ministry of Rites have been celebrated long ago. Normally, the wedding should be held this year, but the prince just said this. He left without saying a word, not knowing when he would come back. If it were an ordinary woman, she would be worried to death. People in the western suburbs mansion are also afraid that Fan Qinjiao will upset him. After all, Tianyu, who is half a year younger than Fan Qinjiao, is already married. Although it is said that Tianyu did not marry into the royal family, and there are not many opinions about whether it was a year earlier or a year later, and in Ziliang, there are many women who wait until they get married before marrying, but since the last time they took the initiative to delay the marriage, there is no movement from the court, and now the prince is gone again. Which girl can accept such a thing? Even if you marry a god, I'm afraid it won't be that strenuous. Fan Qinjiao was very indifferent to this. Firstly, she didn't expect to get married so soon. Secondly, because of the emperor's suspicion, since Bailey Fengming could be sent to the two cities quietly, she was afraid that she would still find him. It was an excuse to delay her wedding. After the 12th lunar month, the palace began to get busy. 3 days before the end of the new year, the courtiers and their families entered the palace for a banquet. The second princess's belly was obviously pregnant, and Yan Hanbei's belly was as big as a pot. Han Jingchen led his son, who had just learned to walk. It looked very lively from a distance. Now that he counted, the 8th prince and the 3rd princess were pregnant. The princess still has a flat belly. However, the 8th prince's concubine was indifferent. Now that the 8th prince is in the south, it would be weird if she was pregnant, okay. On the other hand, Pan Yula wanted to get pregnant, but Fan Swining was like a goblin, trying all kinds of ways to pester the third prince all day long. She hadn't slept with the third prince in an unknown amount of time. But Pan Yulu didn't get upset. After all, there was Fan Kinjao who was not married. In fact, not only Pan Yulu, but also the entire hall's eyes were looking at Fan Kinjao. Han Jingchen was disgusted by those looks, and whispered to Fan Kinjao, "They are obviously ministers of the court, but they are more gossipy than the 3 aunts and the 6 wives. I really don't know why the court spends so much money to support them every year." The 8th princess continued, "Maybe it's just to gossip." Han Jingchen never expected that the 8th prince's concubine would be so direct, and he almost laughed out loud on the spot. Fan Kinjao looked at the two people's eyes that wanted him to be happy, and shook his head helplessly. The 2nd prince's concubine came over at some point and said softly, "Everything depends on the emperor's will. Maybe the emperor will set a date today." End of this chapter.